Good morning. I hope that your Wednesday is off to a good start. Pardon me while I let the cat out. She runs the roost around here, but I hope that your Wednesday is good. I'm in my outdoor office, and it looks like, for once now, it's not going to be pouring rain on us out here in Hamlet, North Carolina. I've YouTube version of this. I've noticed I've had some people subscribing. I'm very grateful for that. But this another mug made by my favorite potter. So in the last couple of weeks, I've been looking at religious groups that fall sort of outside, that are normally considered outside of the mainstream of Christianity. Some of these I would probably consider to be cults, but I'm not going to label any of them as cults in these videos. I'm try to be charitable, so even if that is my personal opinion, I'm not going to share that publicly. Some of them definitely are not, in my opinion. Some may be. And let's see, 2 weeks ago we looked at the Jehovah's Witnesses. Last week, the Church of Christ Science, the Christian Scientists. And for today, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, better known as the Mormons. Before I get to them, I do want to mention this. Since I was here last Wednesday, we had a new pope that was selected, and it's fascinating to me the way the Roman Catholic Church does that. And it was, by historical standards, remarkably fast. And obviously, as a good Protestant, the Pope has no he has no direct authority over me, and I don't owe any particular allegiance to the Pope, whoever the Pope may be. But it's always something of interest when you've got a leader for over 1 billion Christians. One thing I did think was significant is the way, two things. One, the name that he chose, Leo the 14th. Leo is a very traditional name for a pope. Once they are selected, they are elected. The new incoming pope selects a name that he's going to be known by. And so when you select your name, that says something. So Leo the 14th, there have been, the fact that there have been 13 prior Leos tells us something, and some of those are very important popes. Also, when he came out and he was in the traditional papal vestments, that says something. I think that indicates that he's going to, at least in terms of style, probably be a departure from what his predecessor had been. Not that that's good or bad, but it's different. And I did hear his first homily to the College of Cardinals and was pretty impressed. So like I said, I don't have any particular allegiance to the Pope, and he does not have any supervisory authority over me. He's a Catholic and I'm a good Protestant, but still it's something of interest. But for today, we look at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, aka the Mormons. One thing that I will mention in regard to this particular church, that I have known in my life a fair number of Mormons, and some of them have just the nicest people that I've ever met. So they are just some wonderful people. And so in those areas where I disagree with them, I'm going to try to be as respectful as I can and with the understanding that we're just not going to agree. All right, so in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, this goes back, as with the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Christian Scientists, to the 1800s, in this case to the early part of the 1800s. In the early part of the 1800s, the Second Great Awakening, in 1820, in upstate New York, a young farm boy, Joseph Smith, had a vision of God the Father and Jesus. He sees him in a vision, and he reports that they told him that all of the churches had strayed away from the original intent. And so we should see the Mormon Church as being sort of a restorationist movement, if you will, trying to restore something that had been corrupted. And though their beliefs are very different than the Jehovah's Witnesses, they are similar in that the Jehovah's Witnesses are sort of a restorationist. And so the Mormons are a restorationist church. They're trying to restore something that they see had been corrupted through the many centuries. 3 years later, Joseph Smith has another vision. In this, an angel named Moroni gives him golden tablets. Moroni gives him golden tablets, which Smith over time translates them, and I'm being very brief with the description here. He translates them, and this translation becomes the basis for additional religious texts that the Mormon Church uses. In particular, the Book of Mormon, but there's also two other texts, the Pearl of Great Price and Covenants and Doctrines. So these texts these tablets, once translated, become the basis for these additional texts that they hold to be authoritative: the Book of Mormon, Doctrines and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. And so that is the basis for the Mormon Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I had mentioned that they are sort of what we might call a restorationist movement. And so the church has fallen away over the centuries from the true faith. And one of the curious, really unique elements of this is that according to their doctrine, the American Indians are the descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. That the lost tribes of Israel came to the Americas, and that Jesus appeared to them, that Jesus appeared to the American Indians and taught them. Again, that's part of their belief system. There's no archaeological evidence for it, but it is part of their belief system. So Smith began teaching this and spreading the word. He attracted followers, and because of, I guess, what we might call the heterodox nature of their beliefs, and they were harassed and driven from where they'd lived in upstate New York, and they retreat to Illinois. And while in Illinois, Joseph Smith is murdered, and a man named Brigham Young led most of the Mormons, the Latter-day Saints in a flight westward, and they go all the way to Utah, and they settle near the Great Salt Lake. And what we have is now the Salt Lake City. And if you want to imagine a place in the mid-1800s where you can go and not be bothered by anybody, that would be Salt Lake City. You have 10,000-foot mountains on your north and your east, and you have desert on your west. There's nobody that's going to bother you. You can do whatever you want. So they flee all the way out to Utah, and they settle near the Great Salt Lake. And Utah even now has a very, very large Mormon population. Amongst the early practices of the Mormon Church was polygamy. That was an early practice of the Mormon Church. The church itself disavowed it in 1890. Now there are still, I think, some offshoot Mormon sects that practice it, but the church at large has disavowed polygamy in the 1890s. So their belief system. They believe in a trinity of sorts, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, but their belief in the Trinity, their doctrine regarding the Trinity, is a little different. Well, it's substantially different from smaller Orthodox Christianity. For them, the persons of the Trinity are three separate entities, three separate beings. They're all God, but there's three separate beings, and they are united in purpose, but not in essence. And that marks a substantial divergence from traditional Christianity. Traditional Christianity sees the persons of the Trinity as being one. God is one, and yet as three. So Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are united in essence and in purpose. Our salvation comes by Christ's atoning death, and also by our righteous living, and that too is a divergence. Traditional Christianity would see that our salvation is purely by grace. It is purely by Christ's atoning death by grace, and that our works, if you might call it that, don't contribute to our salvation. They see God the Father as being a literal physical being, having a physical, tangible body, and that is a divergence from traditional Christian teaching. And they would teach that Jesus is literally biologically Son of God. God has a literal physical body. The Father has a literal physical body, and Jesus is physically, biologically the Son of God. Now we see Jesus being Son of God in terms of the Mary being overshadowed by the power of the Holy Spirit, and a virgin birth. And Jesus has no biological father. In their understanding of humanity, we existed as spirit beings before we were born. They view families as being eternal, the family unit as being eternal. In their practice, baptism is very important. Baptism, if I'm understanding it correctly, baptism is necessary for salvation, and obviously then baptism is very important. It is done by immersion beginning at age 8. And one of the things that it marks a divergence from traditional understanding of baptism is that you can baptize someone by proxy or on behalf of someone else. So if you know of dead ancestors who you don't think had been baptized, one can be baptized on behalf of that dead ancestor whom you don't think had been baptized. It makes this one a little part of a little bit of trivia. In my own branch of the kingdom, the United Methodist Church, and I can't speak for the global Methodist Church, but I imagine it'd be the same. We accept all Christian baptisms. We accept all baptisms. So if you are transferring your membership into a United Methodist Church from say a Roman Catholic Church or Baptist or Lutheran or whatever else, we accept all of those baptisms. We do not accept a Mormon baptism because the teaching around baptism is substantially different. That's a little bit of trivia there. So that's a brief look at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, better known as the Mormons. And like I said, some of the Mormons that I've known in my life have been fine people. And I hope that I have stated their beliefs fairly. I know I don't agree with some of their teachings, and whether I'm right or wrong, we'll find out when we get to the other side of the river. But I did want to point out where I differ, where they differ from traditional Christian doctrine, and where I differ in beliefs from them. And I hope that I've done that fairly. And with that, I hope that you have a great rest of your week, great rest of your Wednesday.